Work on the synthesis of transuranic elements started already at Lipan, the former Kurchatov Institute. Its initiator and research director was Georgy FLEROV, who had completed his participation in developing nuclear weapons and returned to basic research by that time. FLEROV headed up sector number 7 that was part of the Kurchatov division. The FLEROV sector started experiments with heavy ions in the fall of 1954 at the Lipan cyclotron, where a large series of experiments were conducted, elements 99 and 100 were synthesized, and initial experiments to produce element 102 carried out. Nuclear physical studies on heavy ions clearly prompted the need for special accelerators. The establishment of the Dubna Joint Institute for Nuclear Research, or JINR, also determined the location of the new accelerator. The Laboratory of Nuclear Reactions was set up at the Joint Institute for Nuclear Research in 1957. Academician Georgy FLEROV, an outstanding Soviet physicist, founded the unit and headed the laboratory after whom it was named for over 30 years. Traditionally, its areas of research still remain as follows: heavy ion physics, synthesis and study of new nuclei, nuclear reaction physics, research on the structure of nuclear matter, as well as different kinds of radionuclear decay. Today, the Laboratory of Nuclear Reactions is one of the leading world nuclear physics centers. Here, original and most topical scientific ideas are generated and implemented. Highly complex technical tasks are addressed, and a series of acceleration and experimental facilities are being constantly developed. The FLEROV laboratory has over a dozen of scientific discoveries to its credit, which laid the groundwork for new areas in world nuclear physics and acceleration equipment. Research is underway in cooperation with research centers and universities of the JINR member countries, as well as research centers of Germany, France, US, Switzerland, Finland, Italy, and Japan at the accelerators and pilot plants of the Laboratory of Nuclear Reactions. Academician Georgy FLEROV of the Soviet Academy of Sciences was director of the laboratory from 1957 to 1989. Academician Yuri Oganesyan, who is now also research director of the laboratory, headed it from 1989 to 1997. Professor Mikhail Itkis, currently JINR vice director, was laboratory director between 1997 and 2007. On January 19, 2007, the Scientific Council of the Joint Institute for Nuclear Research elected Professor Sergei Dmitriev, director of the Laboratory of Nuclear Reactions. The team members of the Laboratory of Nuclear Reactions annually publish over 100 papers. In recognition of the great contribution of the Dubna researchers to world science, element 105 of the periodic table was named Dubnium. The synthesis of new chemical elements has always been one of the laboratory's key areas of research. Many of those elements were discovered at the Laboratory of Nuclear Reactions. 17 new elements, from mendelevium, atomic number 101, up to an element with atomic number 118 were synthesized. Impressive accomplishments were achieved in this area as well. Discoveries in heavy nuclei physics made in the laboratory in the early 1960s prompted the need for a rethinking of the previous theoretical concepts. These discoveries provided impetus to a new development of a theory according to which heavy nuclei were regarded as complex systems in which structural cladding effects are the determining factor, rather than charged liquid droplets. The theoretical elaboration of that idea in many physical institutes worldwide led to a hypothesis about the likely existence of islands of safety in the area of elements from number 114 through number 126. Between 1999 and 2000, the laboratory ran unique experiments that produced synthesized elements 114 and 116 for the first time in the world, which brilliantly confirmed the hypothesis on the existence of islands of stability. During 5-year-long preparations for experiments, the most advanced scientific and technical means were used. Devices with record-high sensitivity and reliability were developed, and acceleration facilities were upgraded. Information. A heavy ion accelerator, the isochronous U-400 cyclotron, was commissioned in 1979. U-400 is a significantly upgraded version of the classical U-300 cyclotron the laboratory used since 1960. Compared to the previous experiments aimed at isolating new elements, when the so-called cold synthesis method was used, the laboratory of nuclear reactions applied reactions of coalescence of accelerated calcium-48 ions with actinide targets. The data obtained on properties of the heavy isotopes of elements 105 to 112 and properties of the isotopes of new elements 113 to 118 permit to considerably expand the theory of super-heavy nuclei. Along with the international team of Dubna researchers, US, Swiss, and German scientists are involved in studies on the synthesis of new elements. Competition among the research centers in Dubna, Livermore, Berkeley, and Darmstadt is underway. It is marked by both friendly rivalry and cooperation, since these nuclear physics experiments are the most relevant ones today. The research on nuclear matter properties in extreme states yields vital information on micro-world properties and makes it possible to simulate many processes going on in the universe. The main study objects are the so-called exotic nuclei, including widely rotating, hot and boiling, severely deformed ones, as well as nuclei with a large excess or shortage of either neutrons or protons. The synthesis of exotic nuclei permits to move closer to the solution of the basic problem of nuclear physics, which is identification of the limits of nuclear matter stability. The Laboratory of Nuclear Reactions is also intensely performing experiments to isolate exotic light nuclei. As a result, reaction mechanisms were studied and a whole set of neutron-rich nuclei were produced, from which boron-19, carbon-22, nitrogen-23, fluorine-31, and oxygen-24 have already practically stretched the limit of nuclear stability. The job is being done in collaboration with centers such as Ganil, France, and Riken, Japan. Information. The isochronous U-400M cyclotron was commissioned in 1993. In 2002, the accelerator formed the basis of the DRIPS acceleration complex, intended to produce radioactive beams. Neutron-enriched hydrogen and helium isotopes are the most interesting among the exotic nuclei. To conduct the tests, the Akulina Plant was created, at which experiments intended to study hydrogen isotopes with atomic numbers 4, 5, and 7 were isolated, and important data on the structure of those nuclei were acquired. Interactions of the accelerated hydrogen-6 and helium-8 nuclei with other nuclei are being studied. The creation of the DRIPS complex, where two heavy ion accelerators are merged into a tandem, makes it possible to produce more intense beams of radioactive nuclei and opens up wide possibilities for new yet more exotic experiments. Once accelerated to high energies, heavy ions provide unique possibilities for modifying the properties of different materials and producing microstructures required in today's advanced technologies. This can be exemplified by the development of track membranes. While passing through a polymer film, accelerated heavy ions form practically invisible tracks in the film. Following special technological treatment, the film turns into a kind of sieve. The material was named track membranes. They possess unique properties and are used for microfiltering liquid and gaseous environments for manufacturing microelectronic products, sterilizing medical drugs, and drinking water from microflora, that is, from bacteria and viruses, and so on. Information. The acceleration DC-40 complex based on the ITS 400 cyclotron is intended for research and the commercial production of track membranes. Studies on radiation material science, meaning modification of the structure and strength properties of metals and alloys, optical properties of monocrystals, modification of the semiconductor surface, etc., constitute applied studies in progress at the FLEROV Laboratory of Nuclear Reactions at the Applied Physics Center. Of special value is work that aims to produce ultra-pure isotopes needed in biomedical and environmental studies underway in different countries. A case in point is the isolation of plutonium-237 of special purity, which helps researchers perform studies on the plutonium metabolism in the human body. Information. The electron accelerator Microtron MT25 was commissioned in 1986. The Microtron is used for investigating and isolating ultra-pure isotopes. Harmonious development of basic research and pilot facilities provided a powerful impetus to the development of a new area, which is the creation of specialized accelerators. Today, the construction of such plants for research centers in different countries figures high on the agenda of the Laboratory of Nuclear Reactions. Researchers and specialists of Bulgaria, Hungary, Vietnam, Germany, Cuba, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, Mongolia, Poland, Romania, Slovakia, and the Czech Republic are involved in research together with the Applied Physics Center of the Laboratory of Nuclear Reactions. Today, the FLEROV Laboratory of Nuclear Reactions, while keeping its traditions alive and steadily acquiring yet more experience of basic and applied research, remains a leader in the main areas of nuclear and physical heavy ion research.